Really happy to bring on my guest today, none other than Mr. Max Green. He's the ambassador for the National Autistic Society, as well as everything else. Max, I mean, I couldn't fit everything on there, I'm afraid, but this is just one of your amazing qualities that you do as a speaker.
Yeah, so as you say, alongside kind of the things that I have done, I'm an actor, I'm a public speaker, I've produced a film before as well, but a lot of the
Wow.
work I actually do is around autism. So, whether that's speaking at the Houses of Parliament all the way to speaking at universities, schools, um, you name it, I've probably spoke there sort of thing. So, and it's all just about raising the understanding of autism. I work mainly with the kind of employment sector because at the moment there's only 16% of people with autism in full-time work. I mean,
Hmm.
that's not changed for 10 years. But alongside the autism work I do, I've also got autism, OCD, ADHD, and epilepsy in real life. So for me, it's a kind of trying to raise not only awareness to one, but also trying to raise the awareness to the other conditions as well. What still isn't as high as what we would want is the understanding.
Mm.
People sort of go, "Oh, autism," and we've heard about that film Rain Man, and then they just kind of leave it. And a lot of people are like, "No, no, no, it's a lot more than that." You look at say 10 years ago, so we're looking at 2011. We're talking 2 years just after the Autism Act came in, so in 2009. Yeah, I think there's been more progress in terms of awareness, but possibly not understanding, especially with um, employers and schools, just because schools seem to still have the same way of sort of teaching. Um, and I mean, just in general, like we still learn about Henry VIII, but no one teaches us how to read a payslip or how to write a CV sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Getcha.
So, and employment, I've been in employment situations where I've asked if I can wear headphones because it helps block out the kind of the sensory overload. And I've had a manager turn around and go, "Well, no," and I've said, "Well, there's people that do it here all the time," and her response was, "Yeah, but they've been here 7 years. You've been here, you're in probation." So, and it's like, well, I think I said it on an interview the other day. It's okay for Dave to listen to Radiohead sort of thing. Um, yeah, but I can't block out the sensory overload that's going to help me do my job better.
A couple of points that you mentioned are really good, and I'm glad that. I mean, I've got to say, first and foremost, mate, you're a really good speaker. Like how you deliver stuff, you're excellent. You're excellent. You're very thorough. I'm a kind of a train wreck when I do this half the time. I always forget about things I need to say and everything else. But a couple of the points you mentioned that I want to pick up on is a you talk about that kind of awareness that people have maybe through films or television, and you're 100% right. Like when I was working in care, and I would interview somebody for a job, and I'd say, like, what sort of things have you seen anybody with autism? They'd always bring up the film Rain Man, and I was like, it's
Mm.
good, but it's kind of like a very small. And again, even with noise, everybody seems to think, oh, it's crowds and noise, and it's not quite like that. My sister, for instance, she could have the telly up at full blast. However, a little thing like a plane coming across, she'll hear that over anything else. Or maybe unexpected noises like the letterbox, stuff like that, that will trigger her more as an impact than maybe the TV, or I think everyone thinks it's volume.
I tell you what, just obviously, not just because I'm an ambassador as well, but I mean, this kind of blew my mind away. When I started doing the campaign for the National Autistic Society, um, they've got a video on there about a young boy in a shop
Right.
named Alex, and it's so good. There's a virtual one online,
Hmm.
so you kind of look around like you're Alex in the shop,
Right.
and then there's just a normal, like kind of cinematography one, of following Alex as he's going through the shop, and that is really really good.
Yeah.
Um, and it heightens that sort of those as you were speaking. It's like someone drops some change and it's not so much the crowd he hears; it's the drop of the chain and how loud it is, and how
Mm-hmm.
it's really good. There's also another one where they kind of show you how people can be overloaded with just information. And there's a guy just sat at his desk and he's like, ready, and he's got 60 seconds and he just asks you questions. And the whole point of it is you to see how many questions you can ask, but then all the questions start getting mixed within each other. So
Right.
it's that processing.
And I think the other thing to it as well is that acceptance as well from people. I've had it before. You'd be surprised. Even some like carers, quote unquote carers, they're sometimes we had people turn up and they'd be like, well, should they be working here? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, come on, what the hell? Like, what? Of course they should. If you can do the job, you can do the job. It was this whole thing is, they might be slightly different, they might be awkward. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, realistically and honest, you're awkward. These people that are telling me this are always awkward, and it probably still happens today, I would imagine, because I've only left it in the last year. But a lot of the times, a lot of the people I knew, they used to go to colleges, and I think they're fine up to a certain point. And then I remember there was one guy, he was like, I don't know, almost in his 50s. And he'd been doing the same lesson, maths, for like, all those years since he'd left school. I said to him, like, did you ever get bored of this? And he said to me, realistically, the only reason I come here is so I can socialise with my friends. And I think that's what it was. I don't think it's that he was interested in maths to that point where he felt like, I'm a 50-year-old man and I still need to go to this lesson. Do you feel like sometimes there's enough meaningful things for people to be doing? Like, i.e., one person I supported, he had a job offer, but it was like in, I think it was a charity shop, and it was just, for the most part, be folding clothes, putting them back, and then that was it. They didn't get paid. It was a voluntary thing as well.
I think the minute us as educators or teachers set that kind of bar a bit low, we're automatically sort of subconsciously doing them a disservice, because these people are capable, and you only got to get them you only got to get them the right job, and there's something that they're really interested in, and they're away. So absolutely, my first kind of work experience was in a cafe, and I hated it, couldn't stand it, and it was because I was used to say it. Don't get me wrong, the team around me were brilliant, lovely people, but I was just used to set the job. And I said to myself, I don't want to be working in a cafe. Not because there's anything wrong with that, but it just wasn't for me. And for some people that would be like, oh, I love it. I've worked here 50 years, sort of thing, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. But for me, I wanted, to do something else, and it was incredibly hard because my school didn't do GCSEs because it was a SEND school. I went to college, despite the lack of qualifications, and passed my course. I truly believe everyone's employable. And people sometimes will go, well, what about people who are, really severely, impacted by their condition? But I mean, I know someone that's got locked-in syndrome. He can't move his legs, his arms, he can't move anything, but he's a successful author. He's wrote a book with his eyes. So it's just things like that. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are really interested in that one subject. Like mine was wrestling. I would love to be like a wrestling historian. Put me in a wrestling museum or whatever. I'd be all over it. But I'd always suggest to people out there that just because you're conditioned, don't feel like you can't do what you want to do, because you can. It's people around you that need to change. I never want people to think that it's them that needs to change, there's something wrong with them. People often look for the cure of something instead of actually trying to find out how we can support them. People often want that fix, that quick fix. What can we do to fix this? And people sometimes look past actually the person and what they've got in front of them, because they're too busy looking at the fix. Or, as we've discussed, people will just disregard them and go, well, they shouldn't really be working here, should they? Well, of course they should. You know, what do you want them to do? Do you want them just to not do anything then? Do you want, it's
Yeah.
I've spoken with teachers and they've turned around and went, I don't believe in conditions, I just think they're naughty. I've had teachers like that, and it's like, you're working in education, you believe that. Like, it's as you say, it's an old way of thinking, and
with the education, I did spend a small time in special needs schools when I first left school myself. That's something I got into as an LSA, and one of the things, you're quite right, yeah, especially towards those last years in FE, I was thinking, like, why on earth are we doing French when these guys, we need to be doing life skills. There's no compromise at all, it seemed, from the governments and the education authorities to think, actually, what would benefit these people in the last few years especially would be to do some good life skills, tapping into what each individual wants to do, opening up an opportunity maybe. I mean,